Conquest also did the history of the Russian Revolution in Limerick.
I don't suppose you can recall it, can you?
There once was a fellow named Lenin who did 2 or 3 million men in. That's a lot to have done in, but where he did 1 in, that old bastard Stalin did 10 in. And then Calvin's theory of predestination can be done in a Limerick too. Once was a man who said, damn, it is born in upon me I am, a creature that moves in predestinate grooves. I'm not even a bus, I'm a tram. There was a young engine driver named Hunt, who was given an engine to shunt, saw a runaway truck, by yelling out, duck, saved the life of the fellow in front. Well then, there are these 2 onions, male onion, female onion, rolling along together, pump, bang into each other. Instant rapport. A torrential affair begins. They can't get enough of each other. Pretty soon, an onion bonding has occurred. Not long after, they think to tie the knot, get together, make it legal. And their union is blessed, you'll be glad to hear. And a little baby onion, tiny little cocktail onion is born. And this means, of course, that the father onion has to put in more time at the shipyard, extra shifts, you know what it's like. Mother onion, much encumbered with other work around the place, and this and that, and the baby onion isn't as well supervised as he might have been, and as baby onions will, the door being left open one day, rolls out, across the sidewalk, right into the path of a sodding great lorry, flattened out, rushed to hospital. Team of surgeons fights all night to save his life. Mother onion, out of it, heavily sedated. No more, can't take it, gone. Father onion rolling up and down the corridor outside. The emergency room going like this, wearing a little groove in the ghastly hospital carpet. Towards dawn, the flap doors open and the surgeon comes out pulling the mask from his head and dashing the perspiration from his eyes and says to the father onion, who rolls up anxiously and says, well, what? Tell me, is he what? He says, no, he'll live, but I'm afraid he's going to be a vegetable for the rest of his life. Well, the guy goes into a bar, says, I'd like a glass of James Walker, please. Barman says, you mean Johnny, don't you? Not when you know him as well as I do.
One of the women you do talk about, and talk about sexually, is Mrs. Thatcher.
Yeah. I went to see her speak just as she'd become the leader of the opposition. It must have been 78 or 77, I suppose. And everyone, you can look it up, everyone in the press in those days, the Tory press too, which was still pro-Edward Heath, was saying, this is a spasm on the part of the Tories. This is a shrill suburban housewife, unelectably right-wing, ignorant, provincial, and so on. It's amazing to go back and look at this. I thought, I don't think this is true at all. I've just seen her speak to the party conference. She's got some of the most perfect skin I've almost ever seen on a human being. Unbelievably lovely eyes, and a roll of the hip that would, you know.
But would it?
Yeah. And so I wrote this in the New Statesman, saying I thought she had a sexual hold on her party. Now, I've had a lot of rough mail in my life. The worst, how could you possibly mail I've ever had was about that. But I thought, no, I'm sure I'm right. And so I went to a reception in the House of Lords where I knew she was going to be, thinking, I'm going to follow up on this. And we were introduced by Peregrine Worsthorne. And I thought she recognized the name, because I think if you're the leader of the Tory party and a young man, then rather a handsome young mammal, working for the leading socialist opposition paper, says he thinks you're sexy, it's possible you remember his name. Anyway, it seemed to me that she did. So we got into a fight about Zimbabwe, then Rhodesia, where I was right on the point of fact and she was wrong. But where she stuck up for her position so well that in the end I thought, it's not that big a point. I said, well, no doubt there's much in what you say, ma'am, and I bowed, as if to acknowledge that we could move on. And she said, no, bow lower. And I felt all volition leaving me. And I bowed further and straightened up again. Began to say, no, much lower. So I was bent right over, and she'd been rolling up the order of the day, the parliamentary order paper, behind her back into a tube, stepped round behind me, smacked me on the bum. And I regained the vertical with some difficulty. And she walked away, and over her shoulder said, naughty boy.